Good afternoon, fellow Toastmasters, friends, and online viewers. Welcome to the table topic competition of District 75. It is my honor to be the contest chair for the first virtual table topic contest of District 75. And today, to simulate the mechanics of what a usual contest would have been, our contestants will be placed in a virtual holding room as well. Before that, I would like to give you the sequence of our speaking order for the table topic. Speaker number 1 is Anna-lysa Gueverra. Speaker number 2 is Abe Jun Clarito. Speaker number 3 is Darwin Jon Moises. Speaker number 4 is Carlo Cobrador. Speaker number 5 is Janelle Rabe. Speaker number 6 is Eduardo Catayoc. Speaker number 7 is Angelica Rojas. Speaker number 8 is Julius Cruz. Speaker number 9 is Jon Ace Mendoza. Speaker number 10 is Estelle Osorio. Speaker number 11 is Katrina Gumaya. And speaker number 12, Evelyn Olmelia. And speaker number 13 is Elisa Tay. So I believe we are all set. Please judge, are we ready?
Yes, we are. Yes, Jamie.
And we are all set. So we'd like to call in our first contestant, contestant number 1, Anna-lysa Gueverra. The best way to predict the future is to create it. Again, the best way to predict the future is to create it. Contestant number 1, Anna-lysa Gueverra.
Being in this pandemic, everything is uncertain, even your tomorrow. As for me, I just lost my job. Being in a pandemic and jobless is very uncertain, and I felt all of the emotions that you can feel, and perhaps you can even imagine. But right now, what I wanted to do to secure my future is to reflect, think, and plan. Life is uncertain. Losing my job was uncertain and was not something that I would even imagine. But right now, I am making a stand. Right now, I am saying that I have to face this. And I am here, working all the best that I can, looking for jobs, looking for openings, open a business. Because I want to make my future. No pandemic can stop me. No uncertainty can stop me, and I will rise. And this I promise to you. I may have lost something, but I hope with this 1 to 2 minutes, I won your hearts, and my story will inspire you. Even if you have lost, you will have the time to win again. Contest chair.
We now welcome contestant number 2, Abe Jun Clarito. The best way to predict the future is to create it. Again, the best way to predict the future is to create it. Contestant number 2, Abe Jun Clarito.
The future begins now. Fellow Toastmasters, you are the one who creates your future. Nobody can shape it for you. You can react, or people can tell you things that you would like to do, that you would do, but it's only you who can decide what path to take. I remember Robert Frost's poem, Two Roads Diverged in a Yellow Wood, wherein the speaker is faced with two paths. One is well worn, and the other is less taken. Now, people in your life would give you ideas, would give you suggestions, would give you critiques on which path you should take, the well worn path or the path less taken. But at the end of the day, it is only you, yourself, who would be able to pick that path and walk through it. And once you have decided to take that path, whether it's the path less taken or the path that is well trodden, it's only you who could decide, it's only you who could make, or it's only you who could decide on the things that you have to do. At the end of the day, your future is an agglomeration of all your decisions. So right here, right now, before you make any step, you take any step, make sure that you are decided to stick to it to the end. For only you can create, for you to predict your future, you have to create it. Good afternoon, Toastmasters.
We now welcome contestant number 3, Darwin John Moises. The best way to predict the future is to create it. The best way to predict the future is to create it. Contestant number 3, Darwin John Moises.
Good afternoon, fellow Toastmasters and friends. The best way to predict the future is to create it. I think all of us hopefuls here are actually vying for a title. But what is the future exactly that I want aside from winning the district title? It's actually an opportunity for me to advance value, my cause, mental health, because I really think that there is a stigma that's attached to it. And the future that I want to create is for me to lend a voice. This time, not from somebody who actually lost the battle, but from somebody who won the battle. Those were excruciating pain, and I don't want anybody to get through that. The future that I want is people who are informed, no stigma, and more accepting and helpful to people going through mental health. And that's why I'm here. I'm practicing with the rest of the fellow Toastmasters, the experts, because I want to win the district title because it's going to lend a voice to that cause. The best way for me to be able to predict that future of mental health is for me to be able to create a good one. You know, fellow Toastmasters and friends, we don't exactly have any control about what's happening, what's going to happen within ourselves, but we actually have the power to make that choice, to make that change, how we think about it, how we feel about it. And that's exactly what I'm doing today. I want to create that future for me to advance that cause, for me to be able to speak more from somebody who have actually won and not have been losing the battle. So my friends, I urge you, whatever dreams that you have, yes, we all have the power to make it happen. And we can start by whatever resource that we have today and wherever we are today. The best way that we can create that future is to start by doing something today. Contest chair.
We now welcome speaker number 4, Carlo Cobrador. The best way to predict the future is to create it. The best way to predict the future is to create it. Contestant number 4, Carlo Cobrador.
When you were just a child, did you also have dreams for the future? How did you reach those dreams? Contest chair, fellow Toastmasters, we build the future, we create it. And so, because of that, we have guiding paths for us to be able to create our future. Every single day, we look at our future. Out of the realities of today, we predict the possibilities of the future. And because of that, we set our goals every single day, small goals, so that we will be able to create a bigger goal in life. 5 years ago, I was studying in a university and my parents could hardly send me to school. But then I set my goal. I set a big goal. I wanted to graduate with honors. And so because of that, I set small goals. I wanted to become a dean's lister. Second, I wanted to have good grades. And third, I want to be one of the good hosts in the university. And indeed, because I have small goals that I want for the future, I worked on them. I became a dean's lister because I studied very hard. And because of that, even if we were poor, I became an academic scholar where I received my monthly allowance. Very good for me because I set my small goals. And of course, because I set a small goal to be one of the good hosts in the university, I did. I became a good host indeed. And so, fellow Toastmasters and friends, now we have to be able to set small goals for us to be able to set that big goal. My big goal was to graduate with honors. And because I was able to accomplish my small goals, I was able to graduate magna cum laude. Contest chair, fellow Toastmasters, I challenge you that to create the future and to predict it, you have to create it. And so create it now. Contest chair.
We now call on contestant number 5, Janelle Rabe. The best way to predict the future is to create it. The best way to predict the future is to create it. Contestant number 5, Janelle Rabe.
Sorry. In life, we make our best difference by paying it forward. For me, I was able to do it by influencing a child who was poor, orphaned, and abused. She told me, Ate, what can I do to have a better future? I think I have nowhere to go because my mom left me and my dad is already dead. This is what changed my life when I was talking to Annabelle when I was working for an orphanage several years ago. I realized that sometimes we feel that for our future, we are destined to do this and be this just because of what our parents have done or because of our family. But I realized while talking to her that sometimes we can create a better future by asking people. So when I was talking to her, I told her, as long as you study to the best of your abilities and you do your best and ask for help, you will be able to create a better future for yourself. Your parents' future is not your own. And now I am very happy to share that several years after I talked to her, she is now about to graduate from college. She's now about to pursue her dream of being a doctor. Fellow Toastmasters guests, there are times when we feel that we are destined to have a set future because of what our parents have done or what we think we can do. I challenge you to ask for help and look for help from others. We can create a better future just by asking help and creating a beautiful future, not only for ourselves, but for others. Contestant.
We now have speaker number 6, Eduardo Catayoc III. The best way to predict the future is to create it. The best way to predict the future is to create it. Contestant number 6, Eduardo Catayoc III.
Bam! That was the sound of a gunshot in our place several years ago, April 7, 1985. My father was killed through a gun. Leaving three orphans and one wife, that was very difficult for us. In fact, our family found it very difficult how to survive. My relatives thought of having us adopted in different families, but my mom told me, and my mom told them, you know what? I can help my family survive. I will be able to create the future for my family. And so she really worked hard. She loaned some amount and then started her buy and sell business. My two older sisters had to pedal several kilometers away from the house every morning and then go to work, go to school in the afternoon. While I, at 3, had to start to count in order for me to provide the right change to our customers. Ladies and gentlemen, our story isn't just a prediction without action. My mom had to create it. And here we are now, one an entrepreneur, a second an accountant, and I as an engineer. She was able to create our future by doing it. So you can also do it. You might want to predict to have a better career or a good love life, or perhaps a house and lot or better even properties. Go ahead, predict that future, envision it, and start creating it. Madam Contest Host.
Now have contestant number 7, Angelica Rojas. The best way to predict the future is to create it. The best way to predict the future is to create it. Contestant number 7, Angelica Rojas.
Robert Fulham, in one of his books, once described life as timshal, or a Hebrew term which means maybe or uncertain. And indeed, with the pandemic right now, life is timshal version 2.0. And leadership and commitment indeed is being tested in all platforms, including Toastmaster International. To be honest, when I first heard about online meetings or online contests, I was skeptical. But the leaders of Toastmaster International, from the international to the district, down to the clubs, proved not only embraced it or accepted the challenge, but rose above it. And indeed, look at us now. Here we are conducting an online contest. And not only that, it also inspired each one of us to take part in this online contest or online meetings, because our leaders shown to us, inspired us, and encouraged us to thrive despite this pandemic. Indeed, life is timshal. But if we have leaders like Toastmaster International, if we have platforms like Toastmaster International, we don't have to predict the future, because we created ways, we created solutions rather than focus on the problems. So life may be timshal, but Toastmaster International is definitely a certain thing in the future. Table Topics Master.
We now call on contestant number 8, Julius Cruz. The best way to predict the future is to create it. The best way to predict the future is to create it. Contestant number 8, Julius Cruz.
Indeed, the best way to create the future is to plan it and prepare for it. I remember 2 years ago in our Toastmasters Club in Amplion Xperia, we were existing, but we were not achieving. We were simply being there in every session, but we were not achieving our educational goals. Then we said, if we want to have a bright future, if we want to be a distinguished club, we have to be very intentional about it. We have to plan our individual educational goals. We have to have our club success plan. We have to be very detailed and plan and document everything. We have to create the future now, because the only power that we have is in the now. Not in the future, not in the past, but in the now. We have to be intentional and deliberate. And so that's what we did. We made a plan. Every member should have a plan, an educational plan towards club success. We also made a club success plan. We asked the help of our mentors from the division and from the area and from the district. We gathered everything with the plans, and with teamwork, with collaboration, we executed the plans that we created today, because we know that what we do today will impact the future. And thus, we were already creating the future today with our concrete plans and with the action in executing the plans. And we were persistent day in, day out. We achieved every step of the way. And after the whole 2 years from being simply existing, we have achieved to date the Select Distinguished Club for Ampli and Experienced Toastmasters Club. Friends, fellow Toastmasters, what we have in control is the now. But we can predict the future by controlling our daily agenda, by controlling our now. I encourage you, fellow Toastmasters, seize every moment of the day. Create your future by doing your best now. Maximize your potential and so benefit others. Doing so today will lead to a brighter future. Contest chair.
Now call on contestant number 9, Jon Ace Mendoza. The best way to predict the future is to create it. The best way to create the future, the best way to predict the future is to create it. Contestant number 9, Jon Ace Mendoza.
There is much pressure right now for people to actually envision a future for themselves. And as this quote suggests, it has to be intentional. But in the times of a pandemic, especially for people who are anxious, this advice is ill-timed because we are merely living to the day-to-day. Instead of predicting the future and creating it, we must find a way to live day to day and create that future momentarily, moment by moment. I work in Congress where we deal with a lot of policy issues with people. I had the opportunity to be able to talk to one of our constituents the other day who was having a struggle to be able to eat and find the next meal. It's difficult for me to be able to give such advice to these people that planning for the future is something that they can take hold of, because they themselves are only unable to see beyond the stakeholders that they see. In this time of the pandemic, instead of being able to create that future for ourselves, we must be able to instead try to envision how we are able to live moment by moment. It is impossible within a time frame that is very disruptive for us to really create that roadmap. Perhaps we need to first step back, see our limitations, and try to think of the next meal that we want to be able to eat for the day. Yes, predicting the future is something that should be intentional. But perhaps it is ill time for us to be able to create that roadmap for ourselves. Toastmaster.
We now call on contestant number 10, Suzanne Osorio. The best way to predict the future is to create it. The best way to predict the future is to create it. Contestant number 10, Suzanne Osorio.
Hi, fellow Toastmasters. If I had been told a decade ago that I would be able to work not without a desktop, not with a laptop, but even just on my phone, on that teeny tiny screen, I might have not believed you. I'm part of the generation that grew up thinking that pagers and beepers were a novelty, were advanced technology. I don't know if you guys still remember having to call using a landline to leave a message using the beepers. For those of you that are younger than me, maybe you still remember the old Nokia phones that you can drop from the third floor down to the first floor, and it would still be alive and working. It's really hard to predict the future. Now that we're in an age where technology shifts and changes very quickly. So the best way to predict the future for us, Gen Z, millennials, even the entrepreneurial baby boomers, would be for us to create it. How do we do that? Think about what is needed right now. What is lacking? Think about what kind of technology would make your life easier, or what kind of service. In the case of the pandemic, for us, it was how to get the necessities to our household, food, and other like gadgets to our household without having to go out. Or maybe a platform for how to make money in the future, to give people livelihood, to give people a way to make a living in this new economy. If you can think it, if you can imagine it, do it. Take a leap of faith. Start a business right now. Don't just wait for others to create the future. Do it yourself. Contestants.
We now welcome contestant number 11, Katrina Victoria Gumaya. The best way to predict the future is to create it. The best way to predict the future is to create it. Contestant number 11, Katrina Gumaya.
At the age of 10, I had dreams, big dreams for myself. But everything just got crashed when I gave birth to my son at 18 years old. I was a teenage mom, and everybody told me, you have just screwed your future over. Even my family told me that. You have just destroyed all our plans for you. But I told myself, I'm the only one capable of dictating what my future is going to be. And so from the time I had a child, God has given me a lot of grace that catapulted me to where I am now. His grace has allowed me to raise 4 children. And because of that, my story has had its peak for the last 2 years. For the last 2 years, I went to my dream university. I went to an Ivy League school. For the last 2 years, I was the only Filipino woman invited in the World Bank meetings in Washington, D.C., together with all the world leaders. And for the last 2 years, I was able to meet one of the best leaders that anyone could imagine. I told myself, is this my peak? Is this a future that I wanted? But then I realized that I am not defined by the titles. If anything would happen to me tomorrow, I would not want people to remember me as someone who went to Harvard, or as someone who went to the World Bank meetings, or someone who had so many awards. I want to be remembered as someone who was kind, as someone who cared. My future cannot be defined by titles. I want from this point on forward to define my future by a person who cared, by a person who spent the last 60 days waking up every day serving the frontliners, by the person who was meant to serve. After all, the biggest mandate of my life can be summed up in one word: tell your story, impact the world, and make a difference. Contest chair.
We now call on contestant number 12, Evelyn Olmilia. The best way to predict the future is to create it. The best way to predict the future is to create it. Contestant number 12, Evelyn Olmilia.
Being a religious sister for 10 years were the best years of my life. It was a dream come true. And I picture myself that it would be my future. But then by some twist of fate, I had to abandon that. I was forced to make a difficult decision to leave the convent because they said I was not fit. The pain of being uprooted involuntarily was so immense that it left me empty. I thought I don't have any future anymore. It was like my 10 years were lived for nothing. It was a wasted life. But then I realized that those 10 years were very special to me because it gave me the best gift of my life. I slowly learned to accept and love myself, and that was my future. And I now saw that service to others is not confined in the world of religious life. Currently, I am taking care of my 91-year-old mother, and every time I would assist her in taking a bath, we would always chat. And then it made me understand that it was an opportunity for me to be grateful to all the sacrifices she has done. Fellow Toastmasters, the future I may have abandoned the so-called future of my life, but then now as I come here in front, living my life now, I saw that right before my eyes is the very future I always wanted. Sometimes you might feel that life is meaningless, yes, but we have to take courage, stand up, because we can never know that the future is just right before you. Contest chair.
We now call on contestant number 13, Elisa Tay. The best way to predict the future is to create it. The best way to predict the future is to create it. Contestant number 13, Elisa Tay.
The past few weeks, I have been planting vegetables. Lots and lots of vegetables, whether it be okra, talong, alugbati, any kind of vegetable. For what purpose? Contest host, fellow Toastmasters, good afternoon. It's difficult to predict what would happen in the future because we do not know what would come next. The only way we can control it is we do something today. We cannot rest our glories on the past. We cannot depend on the future because it hasn't happened. So we all have to work hard today. When I was Lieutenant Governor for Marketing, equivalent to our club growth director now, I planted the seeds. I went around, established connections, and I developed a connection between Toastmasters from all over District 75. Did I predict something in the future? No. I just want to develop connections at that time. When I became district governor, I had enough connections all over District 75. Fellow Toastmasters, it's difficult to predict the future. Hindsight is always 2020. We have to work today. We have to work hard. We have to establish those connections. Because if we don't, we have no control over the future. For the parents, make sure your kids are ready today. For the Toastmasters, make sure we work on ourselves. For our businesses, let us ensure that it will survive the next few months. fellow Toastmasters, do not wait for the future. Start today. Back to you, contest host.
Thank you. That was speaker number 13, Elisa Tay. We will have 1 minute of silence for our judges to complete their ballots.
Toastmaster Jamie, 1 minute is up.
And that concludes our table topics contest. How about a virtual applause or thumbs up for our efficient timer and very able technical team, as well as our contest organizers. And of course, a big round of applause as well for our contestants and our judges. I'm sure this is quite a challenge for everyone because it's something new to us. But the great thing is we were able to challenge ourselves and have a successful contest. With that, of course, we'd like to hear a few words from each of our contestants. I have a very short question for each of you, and we will be following your speaking sequence, of course. So let's call on first Toastmaster Anna. Toastmaster Anna, you are smiling now because you are now able to breathe freely. And I have a simple question for you, and that is to describe your experience in this first virtual table topics contest in a word or a phrase.
Thank you for that question, Toastmaster. For me, this is really a change, and all changes all are exciting and nerve-wracking at the same time. Perhaps something that I would impart to each and every one of you listening right now is to have that strength to jump and face that change. Because again, life's uncertain, and for you to have that legacy, you have to have that strength to change. Back to you.
Thank you, Toastmaster Anna. So her word was nerve-wracking. Wow. Let's now call on Toastmaster Abe. Toastmaster Abe, what was the first thing that came to your mind when you heard today's speech topic?
The future is uncertain. So it's a very interesting question considering the time that we are where we are right now, and as most people think, the future is something that is outside of our realm as a person. But in reality, like the question, like the contest itself, the only way that we, the contestants, can predict our future if we go through the contest and answer the question to the best of our ability. So the question is interesting, and is for me it's very relevant in this time.
All right. Thank you very much, Toastmaster Abe. We'll hear from you again later. Let's now call on Toastmaster Darwin.
Yes, I'm now holding it.
And you are, of course, audible. And my question for you is, what was the biggest challenge that you encountered in preparing for this virtual contest?
The biggest challenge, I think, is sifting through the many possibilities that can potentially be asked. And how I just manage is to make sure that I am on the right mental, emotional, and spiritual state. Because I think that's the best preparation. Table topics is about expressing one's mind and what's inside our heart. So ultimately, the best preparation, which is also the most challenging, is to make sure that I am on my right mind, heart, and spirit.
All right. Thank you, Toastmaster Darwin. We'll hear from you again later. Let's now hear from Toastmaster Job. Toastmaster Job, if you compare how you felt before and after your speech, how would you describe it?
I think there's so much relief after after I spoke, because I was so stressed because our neighbors own a lot of dogs, and so they're so noisy. At least during my time, I believe they were quiet. So now I'm so fine. Thank you.
Thank you. I can relate to that. That worry about the background noise. At least you were able to overcome that. Let's now speak with Toastmaster Janelle. Toastmaster Janelle, I would
Hello.
have the same question as the first one earlier. What is one word or phrase you could use to describe your experience in District 75's first virtual table topics contest?
I think I would say nerve-wracking. With so many things we have to think about, not only for our speech, but most importantly, the technological preparations. And the second was relief. Like with everyone, I'm happy to have shared my message, and now it's time for us to all take a bow and rest.
Indeed. Thank you very much. Now it's your time to rest while we wait for the results. Let's now also welcome Toastmaster Eduardo Catayoc the third. Toastmaster third. How are you? And what were the steps you took in preparing for this contest?
I'm really relieved that finally I'm done with the contest. Now I can eat. I still have my Sunday here. Preparations. Well, I just have to ask some people to feed me with questions or topics. Even my friends who don't know anything about Toastmasters or my colleagues, I had to bug them and pester them by asking them questions, to give me questions. And then I also have to pray, of course, that things would have to go on to go in my favor. And before I got to listen to the question, I really pray that God will be my ear, my mind, and my mouth so that I can speak of His glory.
You're right. Thank you, Toastmaster third. Enjoy your ice cream. Now let's have Toastmaster Angelica. You're on mute. All
Hello.
right.
Good afternoon.
Toastmaster Angelica, good afternoon. And how did you feel in comparison before and after you delivered your speech?
Before, of course, I was very nervous, but I kept on reminding myself that to have fun, because the motto of the club, our club, is always have fun, for us not to be traumatized in any contest that we will join. And at the after speech, I'm happy because I did have fun. It was a good experience overall. Of course, relief that finally we're done and I'm done. And that I hope and I pray when after I spoke, I heard all the speeches and I hope there was no technical problems. So I think we all did a good job. So happy for everyone as well.
That's right. Thank you very much. Did you hear that, fellow Toastmasters? It's fun. So try it. Try to compete as well in the future. Thank you. Let's now listen to Toastmaster Julius.
Hello.
Hi, Toastmaster Julius. My question for you is also a little bit similar. How did you feel when you picked your speaking sequence? When you realized that, oh, you are contestant number 8?
Somehow I felt relieved because if there is one speaking order that I really do not like is to be contestant number 1. But when I realized that I was contestant number 8, I told myself, well, at least this is a good number in the sense that there will be 7 prior contestants and I would have time to breathe and increase my oxygen intake and calm myself and just relax and enjoy and couple it with prayers, of course.
All right, that's true because some people have a number in mind that they would like to have in the speaking sequence. But indeed, I can relate to you when people, try to not be contestant number 1. Congratulations on whatever speaking order that all of you have picked. Thank you so much. Yes, Toastmaster Jon Ace. How do they call you, Toastmaster? Jon Ace?
Jon Ace.
Jon Ace. All right. Toastmaster Jon Ace, what was the biggest challenge you encountered when you were getting ready for the table topics competition?
I think it was really the fear that I would get a topic that it would be difficult for me to give an original spin to. So I was dreading that during the upcoming contest because I think we were able to prepare enough. And the only fear that I had was to be given a topic where you would not be able to shine from the rest. So that was the biggest challenge. And I'm not sure if I was completely happy with my performance today, but that's part of the Toastmaster life.
All right, that's true. And that's what all of you did for the table topics portion, is to face the fear of the unknown, huh?
Right.
Thank you. Let's now listen to Toastmaster Suzanne. Did I pronounce your name correctly?
Yeah.
Yes, that's good to know. And what was the first thing that came to your mind when you heard today's table topics subject or line?
For some reason, I thought of pagers, beepers. Just because when I was younger, I remember thinking that's such advanced technology, and then we progressed to the mobile phone and the desktop and the laptop. So yeah, for some reason I started thinking of pagers. I don't even know if the other contestants experienced ever having a beeper, but yeah, that was my generation back then.
Right, don't worry, I can relate to you about the beeper. So we're good. Thank you, Toastmaster Suzanne. Let's now call on Toastmaster Katrina. Hi, Toastmaster Kat.
Hi po, good afternoon po.
Good afternoon. And my question, of course, is for you to describe in a word or a phrase your whole experience in the virtual table topics contest.
I never thought something would make me more nervous than I thought the worst was labor pains. Oh, this was worse. The nervousness here was worse. I've given birth 4 times, but the nervousness here was just beyond compare. It's just out of this world. So I'm just thankful that God has given me enough grace to just finish. I don't know. I know, like, I think it's the same for all of us. We know we could have done better, but I'm thankful for all the grace that God has given me with just getting this far. Just surviving division is already a blessing in itself. And I think I'm already thankful just joining this amazing speakers, this amazing line of table topics contestants. It was an honor to speak alongside all of them.
That's right. Thank you. It must be a comforting thought for other women to think that giving birth 4 times is easier. Thank you so much. Let's now call on Toastmaster Evelyn.
Hello there.
Hi, Toastmaster Evelyn. If you would compare how you felt before your speech and after, how would you describe it?
I feel more hungry now. Honestly, I was not hungry before the speech, but immediately after, yeah, there was a sigh of relief though. But the hunger immediately sat in, and I just want to eat anything and everything.
That's good to know, because you can reward yourself after this. I can relate to you. I feel the same way before a contest, and after I would like to treat myself and eat a lot. So congratulations, you can do that in a bit. And of course, Toastmaster Elisa.
Hello.
Hi, Toastmaster Elisa. As a longtime member of Toastmasters, what do you think about our Toastmasters contest going virtual?
I competed before in table topics, and this was at PICC at the plenary hall. This is more nerve-wracking than what happened years ago, because outside of just worrying about the question, whether I would be able to answer or react to it, I have to worry about the hardware that I have here, whether I will lose my internet connection, whether my laptop is just going to go kaput, right, in the middle of the speech. So there are more concerns compared to a face-to-face contest. But it's a challenge, and it's something that we all should learn and should try to embrace, because it's difficult if we don't embrace this change.
That's right. I agree with you, Toastmaster Elisa. Thank you so much. And we're done listening to all our contestants, and I'm sure we're all rooting for the best or the speaker who stood out the most. And as we are nearing the announcement of the winners, we'd like to call on PQD Nene for some closing words.
Thank you, Toastmaster Jamie. We are close to our announcement of winners. And now we come to the announcement for the winners for this particular contest. We have third place goes to Eduardo Catayoc. The second place, congratulations, Toastmaster Eduardo Catayoc III. A round of applause. The second place goes to Toastmaster Julius Cruz. Thank you and congratulations, Toastmaster Julius. And our champion. Our champion goes to Toastmaster Elisa Tay. Congratulations for our winners, the first, second, and third. And I truly believe every contestant deserves a round of applause, and all the winners deserve a round of applause. Well, Toastmasters, it's been a great opportunity for us because it's the first time that we have our online contest, and this is great and I would say remarkable and incredible accomplishments for District 75. And for this one, congratulations to everyone who made this possible. For all of us in District 75, thank you very much. And for all of this one, kudos to all the winners. A pleasant afternoon to everyone. Back to you, our Toastmaster of the day.
Thank you very much, Toastmaster Nene, and congratulations to our winners for today's contest, and of course to all our contestants as well. I am very sure that the divisions that you have represented are very proud of you. Thank you, and let us keep on developing ourselves in speaking and imparting our message to others. Congratulations to the organizers of this contest and to the technical team as well. Thank you and good afternoon.